That's a lot of money to offer a 30-year-old point guard. Especially one whose playing style has an intense, all-out, who cares about my body, I'm gonna live forever or die trying aspect to it. Turns out it was too much money for Mark Cuban and the Mavs to match the offer and keep their all-star starting point guard. Cuban looked at the facts in front of him and said, Nash can't keep up this level of play much longer. Oh, come on! This is still Mark Cuban talking. No. Any Shark Tank conventions that can turn back time coming up? No? Come on! Okay, it's me, Clara, talking again. In 2004, Steve Nash walked out of the Mavericks locker room and immediately played the best basketball of his life, changing the way the game is played and leaving the Mavericks forever wondering, what if? Mark Cuban refusing to match the Suns' offer for Steve Nash was a big deal. Hello! Wanted to plug the Patreon real quick. There's a new project there from Seth and Ryan about the history of drafting international players. Dirk, Nash, hello. Anyway, I think you'd like it. Now back to the show. Nash getting this stupid money offer was not anticipated. The Mavs' 04 offseason was supposed to be boring. Art Garcia, Mavs beat writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, took a vacation during free agency because he was so confident nothing was going to happen. Yeah, Steve Nash was a free agent, and yeah, he was going to test the waters, but he wasn't going to go anywhere. He loved Dallas. He and Dirk Nowitzki joined the stinky PU Mavericks in 1998 via the same big old draft night trade. Dirk was a rookie, Nash was entering his third year, and they were both blonde. The team didn't improve instantly. But Steve and Dirk developed a nice little friendship, which likely wasn't much solace for long-suffering Mavs fans. Try talking about basketball. But before too long, that off-court chemistry showed up on the court. Before the 02 season, Nash did a photo shoot playing off of the Charles Dickens novel Great Expectations. I don't know if he's supposed to be Dickens, or just someone who reads, or the malnourished orphan Pip, the subject of the book, but it doesn't matter. My point is, you don't get to do a big, dumb photo shoot unless people think your team is going to be very, very good. That Nash-Dirk connection played a huge role in the team's ascent, with Michael Finley rounding out their big three. Dirk was the face of the franchise, but if you pan down slightly, you'd also see the smiling face of Steve Nash right beside him. Nash was the heart, the soul, the engine, the glue. He was so good and did so much, mixing metaphors just made sense. Yeah, Dallas had a weird down year right before Nash entered free agency, but nothing getting a proper center and some defense couldn't fix. Probably. Either way, nobody thought Nash would want to leave in free agency. Walk away from his best bud? Walk away from the team he lifted from Stink Town to Fresh-Baked Bread Town? That's the best smell. Nash had promised owner Mark Cuban he'd give him the chance to match any offer. Nash was an unrestricted free agent. He didn't have to do that. Reporters, pack your bags and head to Hawaii on your own dime. Free agency is going to be a non-event in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then Phoenix spoiled the vacation. They threw a lottery-winning type contract at Steve Nash. They threw a general consensus overpayment at Steve Nash. And, as promised, Steve Nash brought the offer to Cuban, giving the brash young owner a choice. Match it or don't match it. Actually, there was a third option, which is an interesting what-if to play. Match and sign and trade Nash to the Lakers for Shaq. Dallas needed a true center. Shaq was the best center in the league. He and the Lakers had had enough of each other, and Shaq said he wanted to play in Dallas. LA wanted Dirk for Shaq. That wasn't gonna happen. However, there was a lot of chatter that the Mavs were loading up on assets, with Nash as the headliner to try and trade for Shaq. On draft night 04, Dallas traded away Anton Jamison for a bunch of assets, including a lottery pick point guard. Why did they need a lottery pick point guard with Steve Nash leading the show? Perhaps because Nash was going to another show. Now, there are a lot of reasons the Nash and company trade for Shaq wouldn't work out. The Mavs claimed it wasn't part of their plan. Steve would have to agree to go to LA, and he didn't want to do that. And LA would only trade Shaq for Dirk, not a Nash package. So like I said, a fun game of what if, but likely not a decision that weighed heavily on Cuban.
To match or not to match? That was the question plaguing Cuban as he went about his day-to-day life as a billionaire. So, as he programmed his robot butler to iron his t-shirts or something. Let's lay out the argument with as much clarity as said robot butler did on that balmy Texas evening in June 2004.
The case for matching the offer, all the stuff I've said so far, about him being the reason the team rose from the doldrums of the league to a Western Conference power banging on the finals door, except for last year, but they can rebound from that. Basketball players love to rebound. The case against matching, well, here's the thing. Old Stevie Boy was old. He was 30, nearly 30 and a half when Phoenix offered him that lucrative, and here's the sticking point, long-term contract. And here is where playing through a fractured spine actually works against him. Did I mention that he did that in his first year with the Mavs? Dedicated fellow. Okay, put that in the case for real quick. Okay, now we'll also put it in the case against. Putting his body on the line night after night was bound to catch up with him sooner or later, and by later we all mean before he's 36, right? The Mavericks medical team told Cuban not to match the offer. That had to be hard to ignore. It was a short-term versus long-term decision. Let him walk and save money and cap space for the future, or overpay Steve now for the chance to win a title in the short term, and who cares about the future? We live in the now.
But speaking of now, what if the most recent season, with its first-round exit, was the trajectory of the team rather than a blip easily recovered from?
What if the championship window on the Big Three was closing? Could a big wad of cash really hold the window open? Was the window even open wide enough to fit a big wad of cash in there? And yeah, Dallas would need a replacement, experienced point guard to help out rookie Devin Harris and promising second-year guard Marquise Daniels, but Daniels was a starter by the end of his rookie year and had a great postseason. And let's not forget, the Spurs won a title 2 seasons prior with a second-year point guard. So come on, anything is possible. In the end, Cuban let the guy who was about to have back-to-back MVP seasons walk. It's tempting to be like, Cuban, you moron, because we have hindsight making us so smart, but at the time, a lot of people thought Cuban made the right call. By a tiny margin, Mavs fans dedicated enough to vote in a newspaper poll supported Cuban's call. The other 47% of poll voting fans, they were screaming, Cuban, you moron. There was a contingent that found it quite easy to blame Mark Cuban, actually. There was even a great now we're never gonna get Shaq reaction, but come on, that feels like you're just shitting on Cuban for fun. That wasn't gonna happen anyway. Another faulty argument was, great, we don't even get anything in return for Nash. But Dallas did get something in return. Saved money. A boring prize on the surface. But with that saved money, Cuban went out and secured Eric Dampier, a true center, which is what everyone said Dallas needed. They also landed Jason Terry to replace Steve. It didn't lead to immediate success. Coach Don Nelson was kind of like, where's Nash? I don't want to talk to new people. A sentiment I completely relate to. The team seemed stuck in good, not great territory, and Nelson resigned from coaching with 18 games left in the season. Meanwhile, Nash was having the best season of his career. He was MVP and also leading a revolution in the NBA with the Suns' system of fast breaks and three-pointers. The Suns went from 29 wins to the Western Conference Finals in one season. Gosh, Nash was doing a lot in the short term. Part of getting to the Western Conference Finals involved defeating Dallas in the conference semis. The 31-year-old Nash was brilliant in that series, and thus Mark Cuban looked less than brilliant. Nash was so good, the media was saying Cuban effed up choosing to build around Dirk. It should have been Nash. The Suns looked like the future of the West, and the Mavs looked like they'd be on the outside forever.
Lucky for Cuban's reputation and self-esteem and wallet and life, that's not what went down.
While Nash continued his brilliance, the Mavs actually defeated the Suns in the 06 Western Conference Finals. Cuban was forgiven. Probably helped that Jason Terry and Dampier were key contributors. Dallas didn't win the finals in 06, but Cuban eventually traded a package that included Dampier for a package that included Tyson Chandler. And the new iteration of the Dallas Big Three got a title in 2011. Steve Nash never won a title. Sure, he had some legendary success with an outsized impact on the sport itself, ushering in the era of small ball, three-point happy, pace and space offense, but that's not a ring.
Which I don't bring up to tease Steve Nash, nor to say Mark Cuban made the right call.
Cuban himself doesn't think he made the right call. The what-ifs and what-could-have-beens of Cuban's decision not to match the Suns' offer are long and winding. If Nash and Dirk had never parted, would Nowitzki have developed like he did? Could Steve have reached such heights in the Mavericks system? Would they have both been better? Would the title have come earlier? Would there have been more than one? Would the league look different? Would there be a small ball revolution?
We'll never know for sure without a time machine. So, without further ado, Sharks, may I present the Clara Morris Time Machine. It also says time on this side. Thanks to our patrons, thanks to all of you for watching. I'll see you next time. Not really, of course, I'm not doing a reverse camera spy thing. I would never. For Secret Base, I'm Clara Morris. Good night and good game.